EGM Network.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Bill Crafton once again with Wake Up America, and we want to once again reach out to our friends at Evergreen Media. They do a fabulous job. It's amazing. Jesse's unbelievable. And I never leave home without my American Express card. And I'm never doing a podcast without Jesse James here. You know, Jesse's on top of his game all the time, you know.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny. We hit 2 Friday 13ths in a row, month after month, Jess.
Yeah.
Now you're the mathematician. I've been told there's going to be 3 this year.
Is that right? Okay.
I want to know what the odds are there, probability of hitting 3. So maybe next time we get together, you can let me know what the deal on that is.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, this is our 6th podcast, folks, number 6. And being a Red Sox fan back in 1967, who wore number 6 for the Boston Red Sox?
Who wore number 6 back in the 60s for the Red Sox?
Yeah, I'll tell you. His name was Rico Petrocelli.
Okay.
And what do you think
Italian
he played,
name,
Jess?
huh? Yeah.
What do you think he played?
He sounds like a second baseman to me.
Oh, you were close. Shortstop.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Middle infield. Okay.
That was really close. And, you know, his most memorable thing in September of 1967, he caught the last out against the Minnesota Twins to put the Red Sox in the World Series.
Okay.
Okay.
Amazing.
And the fans went wild in Fenway Park. They just flooded everything. It was crazy. But it was, you know, no car burning, no torching anything, no tipping anything over. Just pure celebration. It was nice to see.
Nice.
Hey, you know, last week I didn't mention Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And we should think about those folks because that was a terrible thing that happened. And I don't know that anything's being done about it, but we shouldn't forget their names, okay, and what happened there. The government shutdown is occurring, but the federal brown shirts that want to wear masks and won't have an ID or a badge on them that basically committed these crimes against these people. The government's been shut down for 3 or 4 weeks now. The people at the getting you on the airplanes and stuff like that, working short staff, taking time off and whatever, causing all kinds of problems. But it's the government that's causing the problems. And I got to tell you, Jesse, there was a guy I talked politics once to, and he told me something that's striking, and I'm going to bring it up today's. In the old days, you know, they used to, when you bought fish, they used to wrap it in newspaper.
Right.
And his political statement was, from a political perspective, they wrap today's fish in yesterday's newspaper. And that means, you know, stuff comes out in the news, you pay attention to it, and all of a sudden you forget it real quick. And that's why I don't want to forget Renee and Alex. I'm going to continue to bring them up.
Good. Yeah, they should be remembered.
Yeah, they should. Until something's done. We need to find out, you know, something's got to be done.
Some justice, yeah.
If you're unhappy with your elected officials in Washington, my theme is vote them out. You know, we don't have to stand for this, you know, because I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm an American. And as I say, Americans deserve better than what we've been getting lately. So basically, I'm going to work on voting them out. And I do research here, spend a lot of time researching and trying to find the truth. When people say stuff, I look into what they say. If it's truthful, that's great. If it's not, I try to say, well, this isn't really truthful, and I come up with the truth. And I try to give you just the facts, okay? I don't try to, you know, give you too much at any one time. So it's just the facts. And once again, this is Wake Up America with Bill Crafton. And now there's one other comment I want to make. We're looking at this one, China versus the USA in clean energy. And just as a comment, solar installations in 2025 have fallen, basically due to the administration's lack of funding that they have taken away and pulling licenses and making it extremely difficult for these people to do what they're doing. Jobs that are 90% done, they stop them, they take them to court. Terrible, terrible, terrible. And one of the things we're going to see pretty much every week is going to be the temperature from 1850 going forward. You'll see it up there now. Blue and yellow light colors. When you get up to 1980, you're going to see like Ronald Reagan when he was president. It's not so bad.
Getting warmer and warmer.
Yeah, a little bit. But that's, that's all like almost reasonable. Then you get to like 19, then boom, Billy Clinton shows up and everything goes crazy, right?
Yeah.
Bush goes up, it gets worse. Obama, it gets worse. And now President Trump, it's even worse again. So but we're in a downward slope here. And that's from NASA. Right now, they're cutting funds in NASA so that we may not have that much longer. But we're going to hold on to it because I think it's a great video that demonstrates, is it climate change? Would you call that climate change or global warming, Jesse?
I think either way you call it. You can
I'm
definitely
calling it global warming.
Global warming.
That's okay,
It's
Jesse.
definitely warming,
That's global, because I think climate change is a hoax. Because climate change, what's the big deal, right? Global warming is a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we're going to kind of get into some of the energy things to compare China to the USA, and we're going to start off with Mr. Trump, President Trump's wind energy.
Appropriate to talk about it. So,
Mr. President, your opposition to offshore wind is well known. In Scotland,
wind is a disaster.
but in Scotland and across the UK, wind farms.
I know it's a shame. It's not his fault.
Well,
I used to tell Alex Salmon.
have you spoken to the Prime Minister, and will you speak to the first?
Well, I just all I can do is give my look. Wind is the most expensive form of energy.
Okay, well, I'll disagree with the president. Wind is less expensive than coal, oil, or gas. Now, moving on to the next one.
And it destroys the beauty of your fields and your plains and your waterways. And
Well, last week on our broadcast, we showed you things going on in North Dakota. They had all these windmills in these fields with growing corn or whatever, and it looked pretty good to me. And it didn't destroy anything. As a matter of fact, I think the people in North Dakota are delighted to have it. Brought in billions of dollars worth of investments into that area with 70,000 people living in it. So anyway, no problem with that, So I don't see a problem with windmills in open area at all. So anyway, moving on to the hole in the ground.
look out there. There's no windmills. But if you look in another direction, you see windmills. When we go to Aberdeen, you'll see some of the ugliest windmills you've ever seen. They're the height of a 50-story building. And you can take 1,000 times more energy out of a hole in the ground this big.
Well, that may or may not be true, and I 1,000 times more is an awful lot seen. I don't think that's the case at all, but I didn't do any research on it. But what was not mentioned at all was the energy you take out of the hole in the ground produces tons of toxic pollution, okay, because it gets burnt up and whatever, and it spills on the ground. There's a whole bunch of pollution that occurs with that stuff. And I'm sure I remember the Deepwater Horizon accident, where basically this well deep in the ground, the hole in the ground at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, the American Gulf now, I'm not sure what to call it, but just kept blowing oil out, and eventually it was the British company, British Petroleum, that came in. And they put all kinds of chemicals on it to make it sink to the bottom. So all that oil gets sunk to the bottom and sits on the bottom of the Gulf of America. So we must remember that, this stuff, that the toxic pollution coming from oil and drilling it, never going away. So, and coming up, I'm going to have to agree with Mr. Trump about China.
This big. It's called oil and gas. And you have it there, the North Sea. This big that nobody would even see. You can take 1,000 times more power because the wind is intermittent. It doesn't work. It's extremely expensive. All the windmills are made in China.
Yeah, all the windmills are made in China. I don't know why we don't make them in America. Christ almighty. What is the matter with us, right?
Yeah, seems like a good
Right?
opportunity.
We want
we're missing.
jobs. Manufacturing's gone down in the last year in the United States of America, and we don't do windmills. We don't do solar panels. What's wrong with us, right? Wake up, America. Thank you, Jess.
Yeah.
They all come out of China. They say that the blades, which are carbon fiber, you can't bury. Oh, okay, you can't bury. What are you going to do? Dump them in the ocean someplace? Because they only last a certain period of time. And remember, a windmill has a life of 8 years.
Well, actually, my research says a windmill life runs anywhere from 20 to 30, so that might be an understatement, but maybe he's getting some bad advice from people telling him this stuff. You might, if you look on the internet, you'll figure out it's 20 to 30 years on a windmill.
Especially when they're out in the salty sea and they start to rot and to rust. You're going to have to replace them. It's very hard to replace them. Wind needs massive subsidy.
Well, I just my research on this one is the oil, gas, and coal with their tax deductions and special considerations and subsidies they get. In the United States of America, those companies receive $30 billion worth of subsidies. And unfortunately, our president has cut the subsidies down for wind because he doesn't seem to want to support clean energy. Okay, so that's the way it is from here. $30 billion.
And you are paying in Scotland and in UK and all over the place where they have massive subsidies to have these ugly monsters all over the place. So I've restricted windmills in the United States. Now,
yeah, the wind turbines. So basically, if you restrict clean energy, then you have to use oil, gas, or coal to create electricity. And so we're opting for clean energy for toxic pollution from fossil fuels.
The poor, stupid people at the beginning, they approved them, so they have their full approvals. But I've restricted windmills in the United States because they also kill all your birds. They wipe out.
Yeah, they don't really kill all your birds, because if you look at that video we had there in North Dakota, they don't kill all your birds. They probably don't kill any birds. And I can't imagine a bird running into a windmill, but whatever. And the whales are probably dying basically based on the toxic pollution that's showing up in the ocean from fossil fuels. So anyway, that would be my opinion on that.
If you shoot a bald eagle in the United States, they put you in jail for 5 years. And yet windmills knock out hundreds of them. They don't do anything. You explained that. So it's a very expensive energy. It's a very ugly energy.
It's not expensive. Drive around this where I drive here in Vero Beach. You got nothing but telephone poles up and cell phone towers and stuff. It's just, that's just how we live in these days, So unfortunately, I think the president's, he's got some bad advisors coaching him on some things that are not accurate. And I don't know why, but he should look at his advisors and hopefully maybe replace them, come up with some good guy. And Mr. Trump, I am available. I would come in and talk to you about all this stuff. I live in Vero Beach. China wind. Let's take a look at what China's doing with wind.
Look up. Way, way up. That's 174 meters of clean energy history, and is happening right now. 347-meter blades, longer than a passenger jet, were just lifted into place with breathtaking precision. Together they form a 300-meter rotor, sweeping a circle as big as 10 football fields. Welcome to Hot Take. I'm Gong Zhe. This is the world's first 20-megawatt offshore wind turbine. It was assembled on January 13th in the waters off China's Fujian coast. This isn't just a turbine, it's a wind-catching giant. Let's talk scale. A single rotation produces massive power. Annual generation? Over 18 million kilowatt hours. Enough juice for 44,000 homes. That means saying goodbye to 24,000 tons of coal and cutting 64,000 tons of carbon dioxide every single year. The engineering is the real star. A fully domestic, ultra-lightweight design that redefines efficiency and lowers costs. So can it power a town? Absolutely. It is not just catching wind, it's catching the future. Game change.
Yeah, China's catching the future, all right, So when you look at all the savings in terms of the toxic pollutions that occurred in China, it's they are basically working to eliminate it. Unfortunately, the U.S., when I look at what our policies are right now, today, we're regressing to the past. So if we got to burn coal to create electricity, that's a big mistake. Now, well, let's look at their solar, Jesse, okay? Mm-hmm.
China has completed a massive offshore floating solar farm, one of the largest in the world, off the coast of Donyang City in Shandong Province. Known as the HG-14 Offshore Solar Photovoltaic Project, it became fully connected to the grid in late 2025 after years of construction. The farm sits about 8 kilometers from shore in shallow coastal waters and covers more than 1,223 hectares, using nearly 3,000 steel platforms with over 2 million solar panels anchored in place to withstand waves and wind. Once fully built, the 1 gigawatt project is expected to generate around 1.78 billion kilowatt hours of clean electricity a year, enough to power over 2 million homes and slash massive amounts of coal-based electricity and carbon emissions. Floating solar farms also benefit from cooling by sea breezes and increased reflected sunlight from the water's surface, boosting efficiency compared with land-based systems. China is rapidly expanding renewable energy to reduce pollution, conserve land, and transition away from fossil fuels, with floating solar a key part of that strategy.
Yeah, I didn't know. I know what a hectare was measuring, but I didn't know what it measured, right? In space, right? So anyway, the 1,220 hectares basically is a little over 3,000 acres. So and that's pretty huge, So I'm not sure that would fit here, but anyways, that's what they're doing. Can you imagine being able to power 2 million homes from that project they have out there? That's incredible when you think about it. 2 million homes. No toxic pollution. Now, the toxic pollution, I want to mention back in the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, they shut the entire country down because of the pollution that they were experiencing with their industry and coal-fired power plants. And, the athletes couldn't breathe, so they shut everything down. Yeah. But China's turned the corner. They are basically moving away from fossil fuels as fast as they can. They're still using them because they need the power, but their goal is to get out of it totally. And in the USA, I don't know, we're not advancing in technology, which is shocking to me. That we're falling behind China. Okay, we're going to take a look at the next one with China.
If you travel across China today, you'll see a country undergoing one of the biggest energy transformations in history. So here's the real question. Can the world's biggest polluter change in time to avoid the worst effects of climate change?
One of the things I really wanted to look at is how China's renewable revolution is looking on the ground. And I'd seen some of it for myself in my previous travels, but I really wasn't prepared for just how much China's landscapes changed. For instance, if you travel across the deserts of Inner Mongolia, you see miles and miles of solar panels, these photovoltaic panels aiming at the sun, and especially within the last few years since 2023, we're looking at a massive scale, considering, if you look way back at 2010, they hardly had a solar installation across the country. Now they've installed more solar panels across the country than any other part of the world combined. In fact, I think one analyst gave me the figure. In May last year, they were installing 100 solar panels a second. At the moment, right at the end of 2025, carbon emissions were flatlining. So it's beginning to kind of raise the question, have China's emissions peaked? When I spoke to the experts, they said it's still too early to say that emissions have peaked. It's still too early that they may start decline, but there is some hope there.
Hey, just a thought. We got plenty of open space out in Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, right? And there's a lot of land that's not being really used out there, and it's kind of warm. Get a lot of sun, I think, in those states. Jesse, what do you think about that? Those good sunny states?
I think so. Yeah, I think plenty of sunshine out there.
I think solar panels could work in real well in those particular states.
Absolutely.
So there's plenty of open land out here, and we're not doing anything with it. Basically, in China's carbon emission. Think about this: the worst polluter in the world 10 years ago, their pollution is now flatlining. And it's flatlining because you're using clean energy. If they continue to use toxic fossil fuels, it would never be flatlining, it would be growing.
Yeah.
U.S. carbon emissions in the United States, with the current policy that they're proposing and going to move forward with in this current administration, our basically emissions are going to go up. So we may become a bigger polluter than China when it's all said and done. I want to see if anybody is rejecting green energy in America, Jess.
If anybody's rejecting green energy in America?
Coming up. Anyone, administration.
I got you. Okay.
Can China lead the charge on the green
6.
transition? Yes, you heard that right. The world's biggest polluter has sent the second largest delegation to COP30 after Brazil, the host country. And that's as China is ramping up its role as a leader in the global fight against climate change. The US, meanwhile, did not attend the conference. That's probably no surprise, as US President Donald Trump has called climate change the greatest con job perpetuated against the world, and withdrawn the US from the Paris Climate Accord twice. But even before that, China was already stepping up. That's both in terms of its climate pledges and, critically, China's role as the world's largest producer of green technologies and its biggest investor in clean energy. In September, China pledged to reduce its emissions by up to 10% from their peak by 2035. And that progress is already happening. An analysis by the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air said that China's emissions over the past 18 months have either fallen or been flat. That's a big deal for a country that continues to build coal-burning power plants. But it also speaks to China's ambition to become a clean energy superpower. Here in China, more than half of the cars sold last month were either EVs or hybrids. And the country has significantly expanded its solar and wind energy, now operating at some 5 times that of the United States.
Okay, the CAP 30 meetings, for the love of God, I can't understand why we're not there, okay? So at least to participate and hear what people have to say, folks might learn something if they attended these things, but for some reason, USA doesn't want to attend it. They're running away from the future in terms of energy. Con job, I don't know. I don't. If you look at that NASA photo that we showed up at the very beginning of the program here, it shows that everything gets red, awfully hot climate out there, so I don't see that as being a con job, and that's from NASA, and I hope NASA doesn't get in trouble for me mentioning them, but they might, and you got China green energy, they're becoming a superpower, okay? We're falling behind, and they're going to be a superpower in producing green energy for the world, okay? And we should be doing the same thing. 50% of their cars running on limited pollution. I've seen stuff where we're kind of promoting gas cars, and it's crazy. Yeah. China's solar and wind, 5 times more than the U.S. In the way we're currently going, it's going to be much more than 5 times, a double, a double, and a double. That's where we are. So it's really, really, really too bad to see that. And basically, we got something on natural gas coming up, Jesse.
I believe we do.
And it's the most
All right,
expensive.
I hope so. Yeah, that's good. You're doing a great job today,
many
Jesse.
times more expensive than clean natural gas. So we're going to try and have a policy where no windmills are being built. Off the coast of New Jersey, they want to build like 200 windmills. The people are going crazy. Nobody wants them, and they're very expensive. They don't work without subsidy. You don't want energy that needs subsidy. Energy is a good business. You don't need subsidy. But when you build these massive towers, they're 25 stories tall, 40 stories. They have 170 stories tall. The blades, they take 3 ships to ship them. It's crazy. They're dangerous. You see what's happening up in the Massachusetts area with the whales, where they had 2 whales wash ashore in, I think, a 17-year period. And now they had 14 this season. The windmills are driving the whales crazy. obviously. And they had actually over, I think, 125 or something over a number of years.
I didn't know Donald Trump was so interested in whales.
Right.
But I guess he is, I got to give the man credit, My hat goes out to the wheels, too, Hey, the point to make out, natural gas, and President Obama was kind of pushing natural gas, too, and big mistake by him, big mistake by the current administration. Natural gas is methane, right? Methane is 80 times more, CO2 producing than burning coal. And that's really how coal's got a lot of problems, right? But
Yeah.
methane's got its problems. It only looks clean, but it really isn't. It contaminates the whole world's atmosphere. All forms of energy producing receive subsidies. I had mentioned earlier, ExxonMobil, for example, receives subsidies. Coal, oil, and gas. Last year, they got $30 billion, that's what it be, $30 billion worth of subsidies from the United States government in terms of tax breaks and actual cash payments and not having to pay for stuff. So subsidies for wind have almost been eliminated. I think for some reason, he's getting bad advice from his advisors. We're falling behind with new technologies. We're falling behind in manufacturing. The door's there. He's just got to run through it, open up the doors, and make it happen. But right now, it's not happening. So, and I bring you something back from those clean tech people. Another little podcast. We're going to clip into that.
Yes, Mark Gongloff with Bloomberg, he writes, the GOP wants to give big oil a handout it doesn't need, and this portion of our show, Paul, will be oiled by the tears of the fossil fuel bros on LinkedIn who pretend like corporate welfare for fossil fuels doesn't exist. But Mark Gongloff is here to tell you differently. Mark, welcome to the show. If people have not read this awesome column, which we want them to, what's the big takeaway?
Big takeaway is that you were talking about this bill and all the ways it undercuts clean energy. At the same time, it's giving your word and my word too, welfare to the fossil fuel industry, which is about the least deserving industry on the planet for welfare right now. The Senate version of the bill added on about $18 billion worth of worth of subsidies for fossil fuels after the Senate had already given them tens and tens of billions of dollars. That bill is now law.
Hey, that's the way it goes in America, I guess, right? Basically, if you're in the coal business, the oil business, or the gas business, you win. If you're in a clean energy business, they want to pretend you don't even exist. And that's a guy from Bloomberg, and all he does is he just monitors, energy. And he's an excellent source for information if you're looking to find out what's going on in the world. And we have the final one we're going to clip here is the natural gas one.
First off, natural gas is mostly made up of methane. This gas is a powerful greenhouse gas, more than 80 times better at trapping heat in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide over a 20-year period. When natural gas leaks during extraction, transportation, or storage, it releases methane into the air. This contributes significantly to global warming.
We already said that, and the lady's pretty clear on how bad methane is, okay, in terms of damaging the environment. And from here, I just want to make a couple of comments. I didn't do anything on nuclear right now because I'll probably do something later on it. But I do want to mention toxic. Nobody's currently talking about what do you do with the nuclear waste for the spent fuel, okay? That waste will be around for 1,000 years, totally contaminating anything it touches, okay? And nuclear, when it has a problem and there's an accident, it's a real problem, right?
Absolutely.
1979, 3 Mile Island accident, a partial meltdown of unit number 2. Now, Jimmy Carter actually went in there and checked it out and stuff like that after they got it stopped. But that was a disaster. And the worst one of all was in Chernobyl. That just wiped out tons and tons of space, people's houses, their environment. They had to bury the Chernobyl reactor in concrete and steel, all right, to stop the radiation coming from it. And on HBO Max, my favorite program is Chernobyl, 4-part series. Watch it. Okay, it gives a pretty good representation of how bad it was. And, it's a TV program, but it's might bring home the message. Nuclear is not safe today. And basically in March, that accident, we had something in Japan, Fukushima.
Fukushima.
Fukushima. Give me
the nuclear reactor in 2011, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Fukushima.
Fukushima, thank you. See, I know he'd help me. Hey, that was categorized as a level 7 accident, and that's about as high as you can get. And quite frankly, it's still leaking radiation after that accident, after all these years. And that was March of 2011. And actually, that water flows over to California. And in California, they're catching fish that are radioactive, okay? Slightly. But it's terrible. So that stuff just doesn't go away. It's once it's damaged, it's good forever. And I guess we have an email address, so we can just announce it, and then we'll get out of here, Jesse.
Absolutely, yeah. You can always email the show, wakeupamerica.with.bill@gmail.com. That's our email.
All right. Hey, listen, Jesse, I ran over by a minute. I was trying to get it done at 30, but I did okay, I think.
You did a great job, yeah. Stayed on time. Very good. All right. Well, I just want to remind everybody, please forward this podcast to every contact you have. The midterm elections are critical to the survival of our country. The podcast should be treated as a chain letter. The messages in the podcast need to be viewed by millions of eyeballs, so let's get the ball rolling to restore dignity and respect in our country. Thank you, and you can always email us, wakeupamerica.with.bill@gmail.com. All right.
Evergreen. Do a fabulous job.
Thanks, Bill. All right, Wake Up America. We'll see you next week, Friday at 1. We're live on YouTube. Take care.